Welcome to the latest edition of the Snews here on AM 1300 The Zone, LonghornStation.com. We're going to run down an abbreviated version of the top 5 points of interest that we have leading into this weekend's NCAA regional play. Number 5 for you, Mr. Brooks?
KU out, Northern Iowa in. UNI, who would have ever thought that the team would have taken out the top dog in the tournament, that being Kansas, and they did it in very good fashion. Hit some big threes down the stretch. Now I want to know, can they build off of that momentum, and can they continue on this graceful ride of a Cinderella story and make it to the Elite Eight and ultimately the Final Four? That's kind of a big story for me. I know KU going out ruined a lot of people's brackets, including mine, so that's why they're number 5 on the list.
For me, it's the state of Texas. I had Kansas too. State of Texas. State of Texas established an NCAA record, well, at least for the state of Texas, by sending the most schools ever to the field of 64. 7 programs, including UTEP, made it out of the state of Texas and into the NCAA tournament. We got one left. One left. In 4 days, we lost 6 of those 7 teams. Baylor is the only holdover. Yes, I'm rooting for the Baylor Bears to try to represent the state of Texas. We've always been considered a football state. We need to make an impact in the world of basketball.
That's true. Number 4 for me, it's kind of along the lines of Baylor. I want to talk about the Cinderella stories. I love these things. You know, I was a 5'8" guy who tried to make it to the NFL. Of course, I love the underdogs. And you have 3 of them that, 3 double-digit seeds that I think would be considered great underdogs in the tournament remaining. Washington, Cornell taking on Duke, and of course St. Mary's taking on Baylor, as John just alluded to. Of those 3 teams, I really do think that St. Mary's has the best chance to win. And I just think the other 2 teams the gap there is too great. But I want to see which one of these teams can continue along this path. We talked about Northern Iowa. They were a 9 seed. They're still considered a Cinderella story, but not as much as the 3 I just mentioned, Washington, Cornell, and, of course, St. Mary's College. If any of those 3 teams can continue, people are going to be glued to the TV, and they're going to pick up fans all around the country, John.
I agree. Number 4 on my list is Tennessee. Bruce Pearl. I like Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl is a fun guy, an engaging guy. I had a chance to meet him a few times when I was living in Memphis. Good guy. And remember, John Calipari was at Memphis. Memphis was the program in the state. Tennessee didn't have any basketball history. I know Bernard King played there, but really, they don't have any Bernard King. Look it up. Bernard King. He's a legendary player. Tennessee's never been to the Elite Eight. Sweet 16 3 times in the last 4 years. Never been to the Elite Eight. And earlier this year, Bruce Pearl had to make a stand. He had 4 players wrapped up in some various off-the-court stuff. Guns were involved, etc. He had to suspend all of them. And they took their lumps. But he did the right thing. And it's nice to see them make it back now to the Sweet 16 with a chance to go to the Elite Eight, something that program has never done. I'm watching with great interest. Number 4 on my list is Tennessee.
Number 3 for me, St. Mary's College. The story's been great, but they've done it on the back of their big man, Omar Salmon. Pardon me, man. People will know your name after Friday for sure. This has just been an incredible story. The big fella has really increased his stock. He's 6'10", 260 pounds, and the California product has come onto the scene. He's exploded onto the scene. He's going to be one of those players you look back and when you think of the 2010 March Madness, he'll be a name that you remember for sure. Can he do it against Baylor? That'll be the question. It should be a fun matchup between he and Udo down there in the paint. But the young man has put up 32 points the last game. He's getting boards like crazy. And John, he's even making his free throws. Yeah. He's going to be a terror. So keep an eye on him as I'll be watching on Friday as well.
Number 3 on my list is Baylor. I mentioned Baylor before, but that was as it relates to the state of Texas. Really, it's Baylor the individual reason. It's the individual story that's number 3 on my list. Amazing when you consider where this program was with the murder and the cover-up. I mean, Dave Bliss had taken this program to the lowest depths anybody could imagine for a college basketball team. It hadn't been that long ago. And all of a sudden, here is this team, and they've got this charmed existence. They have an opportunity. They earned that number 3 seed, but now they get to play in a regional just hours from home in the city of Houston. They're playing their 3rd double-digit seed for a chance to play mighty Duke, a team that's been to 14 Final Fours. Man, if they could somehow make it through this and go to the Final Four for the first time in school history, movie scripts will be written all over the place. I mean, the bids will be amazing to try to write this story. Baylor, very curious to see how they do. Number 3 on my list. as we head into NCAA tournament play.
Number 2 for me was Baylor's bounce from the bottom. It's been incredible what they've been able to do. The offensive talent they have in the backcourt with Tweety Carter as well as Lacedarius Dunn. Those 2 young men combined are 2 of the best in the country. Baylor's legitimately got a shot to make it to the Final Four. And we all know that if you can get to the Final Four, you got 2 games that remain between you and hoisting up a national championship trophy. Anything can happen from there. So I do think Baylor is another point of interest for me. And with, as John mentioned, it's the Texas interest. To see the Big 12 represent, along with Baylor, a program that has been down in the dumps, it would just be a fantastic story.
Number 2 on my list, David versus Goliath. Too many stories to highlight here, so I just kind of throw a blanket over the whole bit. We've got 4 teams, 9 seed, 10 seed, 11 seed, 12 seed. The most upstarts we've had in the Sweet 16 since 1999.
That's correct.
And in fact, over the last 3 years, only 2 teams have made an impact like that. I mean, we've got an opportunity for a lot of quote-unquote mid-majors to make some noise in this NCAA tournament play. Now, here's the thing. The odds are against you. You really have to be seeded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 to have a puncher's chance at landing in the Final Four. If you're seeded 7 to 16, the odds are not good that you're going to reach the Final Four. In the last 20 years, only 3 programs have reached the Final Four seeded 7th or lower. You had George Mason's run as an 11 seed in 06, and back in 2000, 2 teams did it. North Carolina was an 8 seed. Wisconsin was an 8 seed. They both made the Final Four. That's the list. That's it. 3 teams in the last 20 years. We got 5 programs, mid-majors programs, all with that criteria, all with a shot at reaching the Final Four. Going to be watching with great interest. That's number 2 on my list.
That's what we love about March, but we also love to see the Titan come through, be tough, be strong. With Kansas out, there's one team that I think has the talent now to be the clear-cut leader, and that's Kansas. Though Syracuse and both Duke are playing well, Kentucky with these freshmen, can they be like the Fab Five, the Jalen Rose, the Chris Webber, the Jackson, the Kings? Can they be like that group that Boeheim led to a national championship with Carmelo Anthony and McNamara and all those guys who were spectacular? Because this is what they're asking of. It doesn't matter if you put up great numbers. These guys want to win a championship. And at this time of the year, that's what it's all about. Can John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins be as great as they've been all year long when the stage is as big as they've ever played on? That will be the biggest concern for me because right now, John, but since my bracket was wrong, I'm going to go with Kentucky winning it all. But I'm not so sure about it. It's been such an unpredictable year in March Madness, which it always is. But Kentucky has the opportunity to finally fill that number 1 spot, much like they did in the year when Kansas fell during the regular season, to actually sit at the top at the end of the year. Can they do it?
St. Mary's is a great story. Northern Iowa is a great story. Butler is a great story, but not a new story. Number 1 on my list is Cornell. The little engine that could. 8 seniors dressed in red. Well, they got one guy that speaks 5 languages. They're all brainiacs. You know, we sit around and watch SportsCenter. They sit around and solve Rubik's Cubes. You know, it's unbelievable. They can't compete in football. They can't compete in most NCAA sports. But they are one of 16 teams still playing Division I-A college basketball. It's amazing. It's a great story. They got 8 seniors, and it's crazy. Cornell is the first team from the Ivy League to make the Sweet 16 since Penn back in 1979. So it's been 30 years since they had this opportunity, and they got great perspective. I don't want to screw up this quote, so I have it written down here. Senior guard Lewis Dale summed up their run as saying, quote, "We've got 8 seniors on this team, and we want to take this ride as long as we can because after this, it's nothing but babies and memories." End quote. Beautifully stated, young man. That's it. This is what they've got. He doesn't have the NBA in his future. He doesn't even have the D-League in his future. He's got jobs and wives and babies and memories, class reunions. He's got a Cornell degree, but he's not going to have, he's not eyeballing what DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall and all these other guys are eyeing. So it should be a lot of fun. Cornell's a great story and one that I'm looking forward to. Hey, join us tomorrow morning. We continue to break down the Longhorn spring drills. Tomorrow we're going to look at the offensive line, 6 a.m. on the Longhorn Station, AM 1300 The Zone.